All right, let's dive into this Call of Duty universe.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
And the impact it's had, and even some of those eyebrow-raising controversies.
Oh, yeah, there's some interesting ones in there for sure.
So consider us your guides through this virtual battlefield of knowledge.
A battlefield it is.
What a battlefield it is.
You've given us some really great material here.
Yeah.
And I think what's really fascinating is how Call of Duty went from, a World War II shooter to this global entertainment powerhouse. I mean, we're talking a cultural phenomenon here.
Right.
It's huge.
I mean, I remember playing the first Call of Duty way back when, and it was a cool game,
Yeah.
But who could have predicted that it would become this behemoth?
I know, right.
So let's rewind back to those early days, 2003. The first Call of Duty drops all gritty World War II action, but then, boom, 2007 rolls around.
Here we go.
And Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare changes the game literally.
It's true. It's almost like they cracked the code with Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Switching to a contemporary setting, introducing those kill streaks.
Yeah.
The whole package was just so slick and addictive. It really resonated with players in a new way.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to see the emergence of those distinct sub-series.
Okay.
Modern Warfare, Black Ops.
Right.
And you have those standalone titles, too.
And those three studios, Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Sledgehammer Games, they've got this tag team development cycle going on. What's your take on that strategy?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Been a key factor.
Okay.
Having those dedicated teams allows for more focused development.
Right.
And it keeps a steady stream of releases coming out.
Right.
Plus, each studio brings their own unique flavor to the franchise, which keeps things fresh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
Like, you don't want to get the same thing over and over.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like the variety is the spice of life for Call of Duty.
It is. It is. And the numbers prove it.
Right.
Like, speaking of fresh, the numbers associated with Call of Duty are absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, they really are. Over 500 million copies sold.
I mean, come on.
Is there anyone who hasn't played a Call of Duty game at this point?
Right.
I know.
I mean,
it's got to be a very small group.
It's like, I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Everybody's played at least one.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point in their life.
Exactly.
And the number proves it.
And then there's that staggering $30 billion revenue figure by 2022.
Officially, the best-selling first-person shooter series.
Wow.
According to Guinness World Records.
That's insane.
It is astounding.
Yeah.
But these figures, they point to something really interesting about the gaming landscape.
Okay, what's that?
Call of Duty hasn't just achieved success. It's become a cultural touchstone.
It's more than just a game.
Right.
It's a shared experience, a competitive platform, and even a source of controversy, which we'll get to.
Exactly.
We have to talk about some of that stuff.
Oh, we'll get there.
We're going to get there.
Don't worry about that. Okay, so we've got blockbuster sales, a development strategy that seems to be working, and this undeniable cultural impact. But Call of Duty isn't content with just dominating the gaming world.
Of course not.
Right. They want more.
You've included some interesting info on their forays into other media.
I did.
So what are some of the highlights there?
Well, there have been forays into comic books, action figures, even those fan-made short films that got the green light from Activision.
Really?
Yeah, and I think they're on YouTube. You can still see them.
Wow.
They were exploring a cinematic universe for a while.
Really?
Which is on hold as of 2020.
Okay.
But you can really see the ambition.
Yeah.
To push Call of Duty beyond the confines of the console. It's like they're building a whole Call of Duty empire.
They are.
But let's shift gears and talk about a different kind of arena.
Okay.
Esports.
Right.
This isn't just a game. It's a full-blown spectator sport.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Competitive Call of Duty has been around since 2006.
Wow.
And it's only grown more intense over the years.
I bet.
We've seen different game iterations, various leagues.
Okay.
And then, of course, the launch of the Call of Duty League in 2020.
Right.
Which use that city-based team format.
Right.
Similar to the Overwatch League.
Yep.
Seems to be working well.
Do you watch the esports?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
You know what's interesting to me about Call of Duty esports?
What's that?
It requires a completely different skill set than playing the game casually.
That's true.
Like those pro players,
Yeah.
their reflexes, their strategy.
The teamwork.
Yeah, the teamwork. It's really impressive to watch.
It's a testament to the depth and complexity of the gameplay. Call of Duty isn't just about running and gunning. It's about mastering the mechanics.
Okay.
Understanding the maps.
Yeah.
And coordinating with your team.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got blockbuster sales, Hollywood aspirations.
It's true.
A thriving esports scene.
Yeah.
But Call of Duty also has a softer side, right?
Oh, yeah?
You provided some information about the Call of Duty Endowment, or CODE.
I did CODE.
Tell us about their work.
CODE is a nonprofit founded by Activision Blizzard to help U.S. military veterans find jobs after their service.
Oh, wow.
And their impact is really impressive.
Okay.
They've provided over $12 million in grants and assisted over 14,700 veterans in finding employment.
That's incredible.
It's great.
Those are some serious numbers.
They are.
And it's really cool to see a franchise like this using its platform for good.
I agree.
But it also raises some interesting questions, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, Call of Duty is a game about war, and there's a certain tension there with their efforts to support veterans.
Well, it certainly highlights the complex relationship between entertainment and real-world issues.
Yeah.
You know, CODE is doing fantastic work, but it's impossible to ignore the fact that the games themselves have been at the center of numerous controversies over the years.
Okay, let's dive into those murky waters then.
All right, let's do it.
You've included some information about accusations of Western bias, stereotyping.
Yep.
And, of course, that infamous no Russian level in Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, boy.
Which caused quite a stir.
That did.
The no Russian level is a prime example of how games can spark conversations about violence and morality in interactive media.
That's true.
It forced players to confront a very uncomfortable scenario.
It did.
And that led to some valid concerns about the impact of such content.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember that level being incredibly controversial when the game came out.
Yeah.
It definitely made you think about the boundaries of what's acceptable in video games.
It was like, are we going too far? Is this crossing a line?
Right.
It made people think.
And then there was that lawsuit by AM General, the Humvee manufacturer.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Didn't they sue Activision for using the Humvee in their games without permission?
They did?
So what happened there?
Activision actually won that case.
They did?
They did. The court ruled that using the Humvee was essential for creating a realistic gameplay experience.
Okay.
And it didn't infringe on AM General's trademark.
So Activision dodged a legal bullet there.
They did.
But it's interesting how even the visual details in these games can become points of contention.
It speaks to the level of realism that Call of Duty strives for.
Yeah.
They've always pushed the boundaries of graphical fidelity and immersive gameplay.
Right.
And sometimes those efforts can lead to unexpected legal battles.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
From the early days of World War II shooters to the global phenomenon that Call of Duty has become.
Yeah.
It's clear this franchise is more than just a collection of video games.
Much more.
Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's still so much to explore.
I know, right?
From the evolution of the gameplay itself to the controversies surrounding the franchise's depiction of war.
Right.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be delving even deeper into the world of Call of Duty.
We will buckle up.
Back for more Call of Duty.
Oh, I'm definitely locked and loaded for round 2.
Good to hear.
We've talked about, the main series, the esports scene, even the Call of Duty Endowment.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other dimension to this franchise we haven't even touched on yet.
Okay.
Those spin-off games.
And spin-offs.
You've given us a ton of information about these titles. And it seems like Call of Duty has infiltrated every gaming platform imaginable.
It's true. Consoles, handhelds, mobile devices, you name it.
Wow.
There's likely a Call of Duty experience tailored for it.
That's amazing.
And the variety within those spin-offs is really impressive.
Okay.
Some expand upon those existing storylines.
Okay.
Like Finest Hour and The Big Red One. Both digging deeper into the World War II setting.
Right.
Then you have titles like Roads to Victory.
Okay.
For the PlayStation Portable.
Right.
Bringing that classic Call of Duty action to handheld gamers.
And don't forget about those DS companions that came out alongside Modern Warfare and World at War.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
It's like they were determined to make sure you could get your Call of Duty fix no matter where you were.
It's true. And they succeeded.
They did. I'm especially curious about the mobile side of things.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember playing some Call of Duty on my old flip phone back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm guessing things have evolved quite a bit since then.
Oh, the mobile evolution has been fascinating to track.
Okay. Tell me about it.
You're right. There were those early Java-based games for flip phones. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But still fun.
Yeah.
Then as smartphones became more powerful,
Right.
we saw the rise of more sophisticated titles like Call of Duty, Heroes, and Call of Duty, Strike Team, and of course the mobile version of Warzone is a whole other beast.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Warzone.
Yeah.
How do you think that game has impacted the franchise as a whole?
I think it was a stroke of genius.
Okay.
They saw the Battle Royale trend taking off and managed to integrate it seamlessly into the Call of Duty universe.
It's like they took the core Call of Duty DNA, injected it with that Battle Royale formula.
Totally.
And created this monster hit that's almost a franchise in itself.
Right. And what's interesting is how Warzone has become this platform for interweaving storylines and content for different games in the series.
So it's like this giant melting pot of Call of Duty goodness.
It really is. It keeps players engaged across multiple titles. You know, you're playing Warzone and then you're like, oh, I want to check out that other game.
Exactly.
It's brilliant.
It's like cross-promotion at its finest.
It is. It is.
But as we know, no franchise is without its critics.
That's true.
You've also included information about the controversies surrounding Call of Duty.
Right.
Some of these are pretty serious accusations, so I think it's important that we discuss them.
We should.
One of the most recurring criticisms is the accusation of Western bias.
Cool.
Critics argued that the games tend to present a very American-centric view of conflict, potentially glorifying military intervention and simplifying complex geopolitical situations.
Right.
Do you think there's any validity to that argument?
I mean, I see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
A lot of these games do put you in the boots of an American soldier.
Right.
And the enemy is often portrayed in a somewhat stereotypical way.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important to remember that these are games designed to be entertaining first and foremost.
Right.
You know, do they have a responsibility to present a perfectly balanced and nuanced perspective on global conflicts?
That's a tough question.
It is. It's a tough question.
Yeah.
On the one hand, games absolutely have the power to shape perceptions and influence opinions.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they're also works of fiction created to provide an engaging and immersive experience.
Right.
It's a delicate balance.
It is.
And I think developers are constantly grappling with how to handle these sensitive topics responsibly.
You've also included information about concerns regarding the portrayal of certain cultures and groups.
I get.
What are some of the specific criticisms that have been raised?
Well, there's been concern that Call of Duty sometimes relies on stereotypes, particularly in its depiction of Middle Eastern and Muslim characters.
Okay.
Some argue that this reinforces harmful prejudices and contributes to a negative perception of these cultures.
I think that's a fair point. Representation matters.
It does.
And it's important for developers to be mindful of how they portray different cultures and ethnicities.
Absolutely.
But I'm also wondering if there's a danger of overcorrecting and ending up with portrayals that feel inauthentic or sanitized.
It's definitely a risk.
Yeah.
The goal shouldn't be to erase cultural differences.
Right.
But rather to portray them accurately and respectfully.
I agree.
I think it's a constant learning process. And the industry as a whole is becoming more aware of the importance of diversity and inclusion.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the broader ethical concerns surrounding Call of Duty.
Right.
One that often comes up is the impact of simulated violence on players.
Right.
Particularly younger audiences. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a debate that's been raging for decades.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
Right.
Some argue that these games desensitize individuals to violence, potentially making them more aggressive or less empathetic.
Yep.
Others maintain that they're simply a form of entertainment with no real-world consequences.
So where do you stand on this?
Where do I stand?
Yeah.
I'm a bit torn, to be honest.
Okay.
On the one hand, I do think it's important to acknowledge that these games contain violent content. And parents need to be mindful of what their kids are playing.
Right.
On the other hand, I also believe that it's important not to demonize video games as a whole.
Right.
There's no conclusive evidence that playing violent video games directly causes real-world violence.
Right. It's a very complex issue.
It is a complex issue with many contributing factors.
Right.
And it's an issue that's only going to become more complex as technology continues to advance.
That's true.
We're already seeing the lines blurring between gaming and reality.
Yeah.
With the rise of virtual reality and augmented reality.
That's a really good point.
It's going to be interesting to see how these technologies impact the way we consume and experience violent content.
It's almost like we're entering uncharted territory here.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
And speaking of uncharted territory, you've also included some information about what's often called the military entertainment complex.
I have.
What exactly does that term refer to?
Well, it refers to the close relationship between the gaming industry and the military.
Okay.
Particularly in the case of franchises like Call of Duty.
Okay.
Critics argue that these games are used as recruitment tools for the military, promoting a pro-war agenda and glorifying violence.
Okay.
They also point to the fact that Call of Duty developers often consult with military advisors.
Really?
And even use real-world military equipment and tactics in their games.
Wow.
It's very, very close.
I can see how that close relationship could raise some eyebrows.
Yeah.
It definitely blurs the lines between entertainment and propaganda.
For sure.
But I'm also curious about the perspective from the military side.
Okay.
Why do you think they're so interested in partnering with the gaming industry?
It's all about reach and engagement.
Okay.
Video games have become a dominant form of entertainment, especially among young people who happen to be a key demographic for military recruitment.
Okay.
By partnering with game developers, the military gains access to a massive audience and can potentially shape perceptions of military service in a positive light.
It's a fascinating and somewhat unsettling dynamic.
It is.
It makes you wonder about the future of Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And its relationship with the military.
Yeah, for sure.
As societal values shift and technology evolves, will this franchise be able to adapt and remain relevant?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
The gaming landscape is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And what resonates with players today might be old news tomorrow.
That's true.
But one thing is for sure.
What's that?
Call of Duty has left an undeniable mark on the industry.
Absolutely.
And its legacy will continue to be debated for years to come.
Well, we've explored the battlefields, the boardrooms, and now the ethical minefields of the Call of Duty franchise.
We have.
In this part of our deep dive, we've really uncovered some complex and thought-provoking issues.
Lots to think about.
Lots to think about. All right, welcome back to the final stage of our Call of Duty deep dive.
We've journeyed through decades of this franchise.
It has been quite a ride.
Uncovering its triumphs, its controversies, and its undeniable impact on gaming culture.
For sure, from those early days of World War II shooters to the massive global phenomenon Call of Duty has become, I think we've really delved into the heart of this franchise. So what does it all mean? What are some key takeaways from all of this information?
One of the biggest takeaways for me is that Call of Duty is a masterclass in innovation and adaptation.
Yeah.
They haven't been afraid to push boundaries, whether it's in terms of technology, gameplay, or storytelling. And that willingness to evolve, I think, has really kept players coming back for over 2 decades.
Totally. They've consistently managed to tap into the pulse of the gaming community, and Warzone is the perfect example of that.
Totally agree.
But it's not just about the games themselves, right?
Right.
It's about the culture, the community, this entire phenomenon that's sprung up around Call of Duty.
It's huge.
What are your thoughts on that aspect?
It's fascinating how Call of Duty has transcended the realm of gaming to become this cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Millions of players worldwide share this experience, fostering competition, camaraderie, and even those heated debates that we talked about.
For sure.
You know, it's a franchise that sparks conversations about violence, representation, and the influence of media on our perceptions of the world.
Definitely given us a lot to ponder.
A lot.
So looking back at all the information that you've provided, is there one key insight that stands out to you?
You know, I think Call of Duty really acts as a mirror, reflecting our ever-evolving relationship with technology, entertainment, and conflict itself.
Okay.
It's very much a product of its time, shaped by cultural trends, technological advancements, and those geopolitical realities that we touched on.
Yeah.
As those factors continue to shift, so too will Call of Duty.
That's a powerful way to put it.
It is. It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final thought you want to leave our listener with?
Call of Duty has undeniably shaped the gaming landscape.
Absolutely.
But its future, amidst evolving technology, societal values, and those ethical concerns we discussed, remains to be seen.
It really does.
What do you think the next 20 years hold for this behemoth of a franchise?
That's a great question for our listeners to ponder.
It is.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of equipping them with the knowledge they need to engage in that discussion.
I think so too.
Thanks for guiding us through this virtual battlefield.
It was my pleasure.
And listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Call of Duty universe. Until next time, game on.